the next question. By the way, if you're listening out there, if you do have any questions at all throughout the session, do feel free to send in your questions and we'll come to it later. Okay, so the next questions we have for you is, are flats definitely better than high heels kind of as a footwear option?
Again, it depends on your foot type. If you're used to wearing high heels and then you try to wear a flat, it's not going to be very, very comfortable. Flats are easy to put on, but flat shoes like ballet pumps or Tods, sometimes they don't have a lot of cushioning, so the sole's not thick, so the impact from the foot to the ground is quite close, and that can cause a lot of foot pains and things like that. So I think you wear whatever shoes that is most comfortable for you. If you've got lots of fat on the foot, then fine, you can wear a bit of ballet pumps or Tods and slip on flat shoes, but you always want to have a little, in that podiatry world, okay, we're talking about a little bit of arch support, a little bit of heel, and obviously enough room at the toe box to accommodate your toes, so you can spread your toes, and also have good kind of movement, because when you walk, the big toe has a lot of kind of function. It pushes you forward, so that's why it's so important for the toe box to have enough room to accommodate that movement too.
Yeah, and so when you say like a little bit of a heel, what's the sort of ideal heel height that you would suggest?
Kind of like not this, like an inch, it's not too much, to be honest.
Right.
Obviously, like heels, I see some people like that. That's just too much, because it will tilt your foot forward, and then what happens is your forefoot, this area here, will build up a lot of callus and corns and things like that. So kind of like like you're a little bit thicker than the picture that you have there, I see.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so not like those, you see some sort of loafers that they have no heel at all, and they could be bad if the sole is too thin. Maybe like, so for the one in our picture, that's more like a sort of 1.5 inch.
Yeah. So like I said, like if you've got, it depends on the type of feet. I can't say like I can't say like, oh, if you wear the shoes, your foot's gonna like turn into like perfect shape. I always say whatever is comfortable for you is really, really important. So if you feel like you can wear those nice pointy, because some toes are like some feet are like that, like pointy, they probably could wear the shoes that you're in your background, and it's got a nice heel. But like I said, what podiatry or podiatrist recommends is maybe not ideal for kind of your population who is into fashion, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But what you could do is, for example, the pair of shoes that you have there, you can put some gel inserts inside. You can even customize a pair of orthotics that will give you a bit more support and cushioning. So there are things that you can do for the shoes itself, and obviously you can customize it in
absolutely.
Have a bit more cushioning and things like that.
Yeah, exactly. I guess like for some ladies that they just prefer to have pointed toes. And so for that, when we kind of make the shoes to fit them, then we can still take into account their foot measurements and sort of balance, to some extent, the width and the toes to make it more sort of bearable than those ones kind of off the shelf shoes. And so yeah, okay, thank you. And so when you said when the sole is too thin, then you could have kind of heel pains or foot pain. What sort of pain is that specifically?
So you can get the foot's quite big. You can get like foot pain. So if the shoes are not the right size, your toes can claw. So you can start developing corn and calluses, rubbing against the nail and the toes. Okay, and that can lead to pain. Corns are quite painful. You need to actually take them out, and if you don't change your shoes, they come back. Forefoot area, you can get Morton's neuroma, which is like kind of swelling of the nerve, and you can get metatarsalgia, which is just pain here. You can get fat depletion, because then your bones are prominent, and then obviously if you're walking without cushioning in the shoes, so thicker sole is better, so it's got cushioning, and that can cause inflammation around this area. If your shoes are too flat and you've got a high arch foot like that, and you're trying to push it down with a flat pair of shoes, it doesn't really take. It's like a bridge, and it's adding pressure onto the bridge, and that can lead to pain in the arch area, plantar fasciitis. If you are heavy heeled and you're not wearing shoes that are has thick sole, then what will happen is you can get plantar fasciitis, you can get heel spurs, you can get just calcaneus pain around heel pain in that area, Achilles tendonitis. So there's so many things that
Could
can
go
happen.
wrong.
Yeah, in the foot itself. So you just have to be really careful. But like I said, some people can just wear heels every single day without cushioning, and they're fine. But I always recommend, like, if you're wearing heels, have some gel cushions and things like that. It really will increase your comfort, and then obviously you can wear a longer period.
Yeah. You don't need gels or cushions in our shoes, because we use memory foam, and it's like really thick, a bit like what we call it foot doobie in our shoes. Yes. Okay, and so I was going to ask you. Yeah, so when you say comfort, it's a lot to do with somebody's pain tolerance, isn't it? Like, and so even say somebody felt like, oh, you know, they can put up with the pain, they're relatively comfortable wearing a pair of shoes, they could still develop problems, right?
Of course. Age, genetics. If you can tolerate the pain, well, if there's a little bit of pain, that means something must be going on. But yes, you don't. If you're genetically predisposed to the foot problem, then obviously you're not going to get potentially pain, because you can have bunions and you're wearing the perfect shoes. You can have perfect foot. You can have a perfect shoe, but you can still develop bunions. So which might not be painful. So it doesn't mean that it would definitely, by wearing narrow shoes and all of that, it doesn't necessarily mean that you'll have bunions and cold toes and hammer toes and corn and calluses and things like that, but it might increase the risk of it. So it's not definite.
Yeah, okay. Good, that's very useful advice, thank you. So the next question we have is, what are the most important features that you look for in a pair of shoes? I know that you have mentioned into the square toes for shape, and then sort of support in general, but like, can you just kind of share a bit more details about the kind of look of the shoes?
So toe box, width, depth, length. So ideally you want to have so let's say this is my longest toe, you want to have half a thumb. Some people say a thumb to half a thumb width. Okay. I like, myself personally, some arch support, because I feel like if I don't wear arch support, my foot feels a bit collapsed, to be honest. Maybe because when I was pregnant I gained a lot of weight, but really helps. And I personally like some kind of fastening, just to hold my foot in place. But I think the most important thing is the arch support for me, and the toe box area. In terms of material, it depends on what season and things like that. Obviously leather looks nice, but it might not be breathable, and if you have kind of infections and things like that, it might actually harbor more infections. You could wear trainers, but sometimes trainers, they're breathable but they're not waterproof. So today it rained in London, and obviously the water can get in. So it really depends on what you're doing, where you're going. You know, I wear trainers actually, and I change my trainers every 6 weeks, because I treat quite a lot of fungal infections and things like that. So but I don't buy very expensive shoes, because I chuck them away. Probably not great for the environment.
Wow.
But I don't want to pick up an infection, because obviously things can drop into the footwear and then cause infection, things like that.
Right, okay. If, say, obviously advice for ladies who don't work in a podiatrist clinic, how long would you suggest people to kind of change shoes? Would it be literally as long as the shoes last, or is there such thing for like sort of footwear hygiene that because they're quite old that you should just be disposing them for new pairs?
If you have a existing infection, itchy feet or anything like that, they need to go. Okay, there's no point of keeping them, especially if you don't wear socks. So there was this paper, I think from the United States, that showed that bacteria can last if you hide your flip-flops and then you take them out and they swabbed it and there was still bacteria. So actually bacteria and fungal infection can last very, very long in shoes. Imagine if you never change your underwear. You know?
Wow.
Not very nice, is it? So I think be sensible. I know some people have really fancy shoes, so you might not want to get rid of it. There are ways to disinfect them. Let's say we don't get rid of them, okay? But ideally, if you wear them all the time without socks, probably get rid of them after the summer or whatever. But there are things that you can do to disinfect your shoes. So you might not need to get rid of them if you really don't want to. So spray. Antifungal spray, antifungal powder, wearing bamboo socks might stop any kind of, well, not stop, prevent a bit of transfer from the foot to the shoes, and changing the interior sole, so going to a shoemaker and change my sole. But there's also things that have a UV light. So obviously, UV light kills off loads of germs. There's loads of devices out there, Amazon it, Google it, stick it in, turn it on for anything from 8 minutes to 45 minutes. The reason why there's such a big time frame is because bacteria takes 8 minutes to clear, but fungus takes up to an hour to clear. And remember, these devices or sprays or powders don't get rid of 100% of infections, okay, or smell, whatever is lurking around. Only gets rid of around 90% of it. So you can still have the chance to accumulate. So if you don't want to throw them away, do what I just said. But if you do want to throw them away, I don't know. It depends. It really depends. I can't answer that because it really, like, if you're you work in a sewage place, then you probably want to change your shoes every day. But if you're a woman working in business and you've got 10 pairs of shoes, then you don't really need to throw them away because you're only wearing them once a week. But if you wear them shoes every single day, like ballet pumps, I have loads of patients who comes in ballet pumps, then I would say change them every season, every summer, or when they start to smell or they don't look right.
I mean, shoes can be quite personal when you feel like they're comfortable, and then the kind of designs that you wear to most of your occasions, and you can be quite attached to them, and throwing them away is quite a challenge.
And we see that in young population, old population. In the National Health Service, we'll see people that say, oh, they're like really old grannies, and they're like, their shoes are so comfortable. But there's you can see that the toes are bulging on the toe box. So the toe box is the front of the shoe. You can see really lumpy, but and they're really attached because they're so used to wearing that pair of shoes. And you tell them every time you see them, you need to change your shoes, and they'll be like, and they come back in with the same shoes. So sometimes it's true. Some people are attached, and all the business women and men out there, if you're making money, you're buying some really expensive shoes, and I don't know how many times I had to have this conversation with my patients about changing their shoes, but they're like, oh, my shoes are really expensive. And I'm like, really sorry. And then that's when I say you can disinfect them. But when you're having treatment with me, you can't wear them because I don't want to be responsible. But once I discharge you, you can do whatever you want with them.
Right.